All right, so there are just a few questions from the quiz that I want to go over. Now, if I'm going over a question and you're like, oh, Mr. Lehman, I got it, I already nailed this one, go ahead, fast forward to the next part. Don't feel like you have to watch it, but obviously if you got it wrong, then it's going to be important to be paying attention. So the first question, I'm just going over 3 questions total of ones that people miss the most. The first one is find the area of the polygon with the given vertices. So most people did a very good job graphing it and writing their graph and showing their work, just like I have right here. But what a lot of people did was they know that it's 1/2 base times height. They did 1/2 and they got that the base was 1, 2, 3. But then the height should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a lot of people I saw only counted a height of 4 because this was down in the -4, which it's true, that is down in the -4, but we've got to include this +1 here as well. So we should have a height of 5. That would give us 1/2 times 15, and that's where we get 7.5 for this one here. Now, if we look at, well, that's number 6, and I want to save that for last. If we look at number 3, this one was also very heavily missed. And again, I saw people that drew pictures, which is great, but a lot of the pictures looked like this. A lot of the pictures looked like this, and they assumed that this was 180 degrees. Now, I totally get where that's coming from, because we have done things where we have pictures that are 180 degrees. The only problem with that is that nowhere in these directions does it say that we're dealing with a straight angle or a linear pair or anything like that. The only way that we can know that we're dealing with something that's 180 degrees total is if in the directions it tells us that we have a linear pair, or that WXZ is a straight angle, meaning it's 180 degrees, or that they are supplementary angles. That would also tell us that they're 180. Since it does not tell us any of those things, we cannot assume that these two angles add up to 180 degrees. What a lot of people did is they assumed it added up to 180, so they did 180 minus 25, and I saw a decent amount of answers that were like 155. Some people tried 135. I saw some 130s and things like that. If we read just what it says in the directions here, ray XY, so we have some ray XY, bisects WXZ. So if it bisects, that means it splits it in half. So I'll try my best to draw an angle that's split in half. And this is WXZ. It bisects WXZ. The measure of ZXY, the measure of ZXY is 25 degrees. Now it wants to know 2 things. First, it wants to know the measure of WXY. So it wants to know WXY. It wants to know this one. And it wants to know the whole entire thing. So WXZ. Now, first thing, a lot of people on the quiz switched these measures, which I can't remember. I either gave full credit or at least a lot of partial credit on that one. On the test, we need to make sure we're keeping those things straight because our labels do matter. So I was a little more lenient on the test, or on the quiz, than I will be on the test. But first, if we're looking at, I did it in green, WXY. Well, WXY is just the other half of this angle, right? It said that the ray bisects this whole angle. So if it bisects it, that means it splits it in half. So we know that this is also 25 degrees. Now, if we look at WXZ, that's the whole entire thing. So all we need to do is add these 2 angles together, and we'll see that the whole thing is 50. So math-wise, it's not a super tricky problem, but we just need to make sure we're reading very carefully, that we're not reading into things and assuming that we have an angle that's 180 degrees. We need to make sure we're being a little more careful with how we read. And the last one, number 6, which on the quiz I gave this to everybody because I don't think we've practiced problems like this quite enough. And I realized that there were a couple rounding things that people could have done differently that would affect the number that they got. So if you got it correct, then I gave you a bonus point. You'll see 3 out of 2 on that one. Everyone else, if you didn't get it correct, no big deal. I gave you 2 out of 2. So there's 2 points for everybody. But on the test, we will have a question like this. So it will be important to know how to do these. It says 2 angles form a linear pair. So since we have a linear pair, we know, oops, that's not straight. That's not straight either. There we go. We can know that we have a straight line that adds up to 180 degrees because it said we have a linear pair. The measure of one angle is 3/4 the measure of the other angle. Find the measure of each angle. It says round each step to the nearest tenth. Set up an equation that includes the original value plus the change that happens to the original, and then equal to the total. So let's just say, I'll just draw a picture like this so it can help us out. The measure of one angle is 3/4 the measure of the other. So we have one angle that is 3/4. If we just say this other angle is x, this is what I'm talking about by the original angle. That we have kind of the one that we're starting with, and then over here, 3/4 x, that's the one that we're changing. So that's kind of what I mean there. In all these problems, we have some type of original angle, and then they say we have this angle, and now we're going to make a change to it. Maybe we're adding 50 degrees, or maybe we're multiplying. In this case, it's 3/4 of the other one, or maybe we're doubling. There's a lot of different things that we can do. But really the important thing is that we have our original angle and then the change that happens. So then what we want to do is we know that the original plus whatever that change is will give us 180 degrees. And that's because they told us we have a linear pair. So that's where we do have to pay attention to that, and we can assume that 180 degrees. Now all we're doing is solving for x. So x plus 3/4 of x would give us 7/4 of x. Now to get rid of the fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal to both sides, so we can get rid of it here. X equals 180 times 4 divided by 7 will give me 102.9. So we know that this x right here is 102.9. Now we can find this other 3/4 of x by doing 102.9 multiplied by our 0.75, or multiplied by 3/4, and that would give us 77.1. So that is how we can find and how we need to set up problems that look like this. If we have that 102.9, and every time I say that, I want to say 102.7. Always listen to your mom. But anyway, hopefully somebody laughed at that. Another way we can find what this angle measure has to be is if we know the whole thing is 180, and we know that, I should probably change colors here. If we know the whole thing is 180, what I just did is fine. You could stop there, turn off the video, whatever. But if you want to double check, if you know the whole thing is 180, and you know that this side is 102.9, and we subtract these things, then we will get 77.1. So there's kind of a quick check there to make sure that we're on the right track. All right, hopefully that was something that was helpful and worth your time. If you have any other specific questions about your quiz, send me a screenshot of the problem, and I can go over it just like I did in this video. Otherwise, have a good day.